This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Monday, March 20th, 2006, and this is episode number 76 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm Matt Hochberg from MGMstudios.org. Let me introduce our panel for today's show. We have Mike Scopa, whose column Scoping the Parks you can find at mouseplanet.com. Welcome, Mike.
We'll rendezvous at Planet Z.
Short and sweet. That's how I like it. Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio is on as well. Welcome, Mike.
Hello, everybody.
And live from Disney World's Old Key West Resort is Len Testa, the unofficial guide to Walt Disney World. Welcome, Len.
Hey, Matt. How's it going?
Woohoo.
Outstanding. And our special guest panelist needs no introduction. She's Mary Waring of MouseSavers.com. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime, Mary. And on today's show, we're talking about off-site hotels, specifically the ones listed at MouseSavers.com preferred hotel list. Now, believe it or not, some people do actually stay off-site, not on Disney property. Shocking, but they do. And we're going to go through the list. We're going to use it as the list that preferred hotels on MouseSavers.com as a basis, and we may veer on or off that list. But, Mary, could you quickly tell our listeners why these hotels that you've got listed, which we'll put a link in the show notes for, are listed as preferred?
Well, let me just start by saying that you mentioned people staying off-site, not on Disney property, but actually a lot of these are on Disney property. They're not owned and operated by Disney, but they are physically located within the gates of Walt Disney World. But to get to your main question, how I picked these, I actually spent about a year going around the area of Walt Disney World, working outward, sort of in a circular pattern, checking out different areas where there are lots of hotels concentrated and getting a feel for what is available in the region. And then as I started to sort of get a sense of which areas are convenient, where some of the better hotels were, then I started zeroing in on certain ones that I thought seemed to offer not only quality for the price, but had something distinctive about them that made it more fun to visit them. So in other words, I tried to stay away from anything that was a chain hotel that was just like a branch of that same chain in Topeka, Kansas. I wanted to find places that really represented some kind of fun or value added or great pool or something that really made them stand out.
Great. The first hotel you have on your list is the Best Western Lake Buena Vista. That's the one at Downtown Disney, is that right?
Right.
And you've got listed over here, moderately priced, full-service hotel offers spacious rooms that sleep 4 or 5 with a rollaway. Now, you just mentioned a couple seconds ago about how you didn't want hotels that were the same as any other chain hotel you could find elsewhere in the world. What separates the Best Western?
It has some phenomenal views from the upper floors of Downtown Disney and sometimes even of the parks, depending on how the light's hitting things. Some very large balconies, kind of unusual in the newer construction. The rooms are exceptionally spacious, and it's physically located on Walt Disney World property, which gives it some added value because you could walk from it to, say, Crossroads Center, which offers a lot of shopping and restaurants. If you're a good walker, you can walk all the way down to Downtown Disney for the evening, or you can take their bus. There's an internal bus system that serves the Downtown Disney property, so you can take the bus to Downtown Disney if you want.
Or you could stagger back from Raglan Road, right? Please continue.
Len, this is the first Downtown Disney hotel, and I guess this is a good opportunity for you to perhaps tell our listeners what your opinion is of the internal Downtown Disney bus system, which is different from the Walt Disney World bus system. Is it a good bus system, or what's your opinion on it?
It's adequate for what it does. It's probably better than. It's not as good as Disney's transportation. It's better than anything else you're going to find off-site. I've certainly used it many times. It's absolutely fine. It runs until it has almost the same hours as the Disney buses. I don't recall if it starts quite as early or runs quite as late, but overall it's not bad at all. I mean, I would certainly use it, and I've told my family to use it before too, so no problem.
My experience, I'm sorry to interrupt. My experience with it has been that it's variable depending on season. If you go in the off season, in my experience, I've had no trouble with it at all. If they say it's coming every 30 minutes, it's there every 30 minutes. It's not crowded. It's not a problem. Now, the feedback I've had from some people is that if you're going in the super high season, especially Easter break time, certainly Christmas, any of the holidays, you may have full buses if you are unlucky enough to be staying in one of the hotels that's at the end of the bus route, because the buses do pick up from multiple hotels. And they're not quite as quick as Disney would be to put on extra buses. They have the same kind of flexibility because they're
have the same
of the
capacity.
scale that they're operating on. So, if that's a big consideration for you, I would recommend having a rental car. If you're pretty flexible and laid back and you don't care if you have to wait an extra 10 minutes, you can save an awful lot of money by staying in one of the downtown Disney resorts and, putting up with the vagaries of the bus system.
Is it true that the Best Western that you're talking about actually offers rooms that give you a balcony view of illuminations at night? That's what I've heard.
I have heard that. I have not personally witnessed it. But
Really?
there are some very spectacular views from some of those
Mary, what
balconies.
are typical rates for the Best Western?
Uh,
What are we looking at compared to like a moderate at Disney?
It's
they're high.
less than a moderate,
Really?
actually. Yeah. Typically, I've seen rates in the off season as low as $59 or $69 a night, which is pretty hard to beat for a full service hotel that has restaurants and gift shop and all that stuff in it. It is the least expensive property I work with overall. I mean, sometimes one of my other properties will have a super bargain deal going on that beats them, but generally speaking, it's the least expensive of the ones I work with.
We should also mention that another benefit of these downtown Disney resorts is, and as well as probably many of the other ones that we're going to be discussing, is that they're able to often be booked via a website like Priceline.com, where you can get even cheaper discounts than the available rates you could find.
Right. If you're not particular about which exact hotel you're going to stay in, you could certainly go with Priceline. That's a very good option if you're trying to stay in the lower price ranges.
Yep.
Because you could conceivably get a deluxe level hotel, what they call either a 4-star or resort hotel, on Priceline for somewhere in the neighborhood of $69 to $99, depending on the season. And that's, a fraction of what you would pay if you picked the hotel and booked with them directly. Of course, then you take what you get. So,
Yep. I'd recommend biddingfortravel.com if you're interested in that route. So let's move on to Celebration Hotel, which is located in the town of Celebration, which is not owned by Disney anymore. But this hotel, I see rates specials for this hotel often on Now Savers, and it looks like a fantastic hotel, Mary.
if you're contemplating a honeymoon or some kind of romantic getaway and you want to include Disney World in that, Celebration is just about ideal because it's super romantic. The town itself is a lot of fun to just walk around. It's a lot of romantic pathways and things to do down there. It's not real child-oriented. I wouldn't heavily recommend it for families. But if what you want is sort of romance and then you want to just be able to pop up to Disney World for the day or whatever, that's a super choice.
Is there any transportation from Celebration specifically to Walt Disney World?
They do. The hotel itself does offer scheduled transportation. Basically, you book it in advance. You tell them, I want to go at 9 o'clock tomorrow, and we're going to come back at 5, and they will arrange transportation for you, private transportation, which they do not charge you for.
Oh,
But it is
wow.
a little inconvenient because you don't have any flexibility, really. Once you've said, I'm coming back at 5, you might be able to call them, and they might be able to get the driver and have you come back at 4 or something, but it's not super flexible, in other words.
Interesting.
But it's
How
pretty
are the
luxurious.
rooms? Are the rooms pretty big?
The rooms are extremely variable in size. Apparently, the Disney dictated the exterior architecture of the building, and that caused them to have to create a lot of odd-shaped rooms, which is fun because each room is a little different from the next. But it also means the size of the rooms can be all over the place. Some of them are really quite petite, although they're beautifully furnished and they don't feel cramped. They feel cozy. But if you're looking for a huge space to roll out your extra sleeping bags, that's not going to work.
So there's a chance you might get a large octagonal room, right?
You could get a very odd-shaped room.
Particular.
Some of them have little bay windows with little chairs in them. They're all over the place in terms
Is it
of
balconies?
the shapes. Some don't.
I was just reading on the site. There are over 30 different room configurations.
Wow.
Yep. And I would say that's even general, because within each room configuration, none of the rooms are exactly the same.
Right.
So,
Well, our next hotel is the Buena Vista Suites, which is according to Mary's site over here, is also the sister property of the Carib Royal Resort, which I believe is further down the list. It is.
yes. I work with both of those.
Okay. Can you tell us, maybe you want to combine the two into, one?
Yeah, actually, it's more convenient to talk about them at the same time because the thing to know about them is that the suites themselves, which are very similar to Embassy Suites style accommodations for those who are familiar with that particular brand, you have a separate bedroom, a bathroom, and then a separate living room. The bathroom is between the two other rooms, which is quite convenient if you have people sleeping and don't have to cut through each other's space. There's a mini fridge, microwave, and a wet bar, meaning a small sink, in the living room area. And essentially the suites in both Buena Vista Suites and Caribe Royale are more or less identical. There's a slight difference in the decor, but they're the same size, same layout, same amenities. There's really no difference in the actual rooms. The difference between the resorts is that Buena Vista Suites is geared toward the leisure family traveler, and so it offers a free breakfast in the morning. It's a hot breakfast buffet, and they have an ordinary pool. It's less expensive than the Caribe Royale. The Caribe Royale is more geared toward the business and convention groups, and so they have extra amenities that are geared toward those. They pretty much have to offer a 5-star restaurant. They have a beautiful pool with a waterfall feature, an absolutely fantastic workout room. It's probably the best one anywhere I've seen in the Orlando area. It's brand new, just opened recently. 2-story, it's really fabulous. So they have all these extra amenities in the public areas at the Caribe Royale that they don't offer at the Buena Vista Suites, and it's because they're trying to gear themselves to two different sets of clientele.
Great. The next resort is the Hotel Royal Plaza. That's a downtown Disney resort. I stayed there before the hurricane knocked it out for, 2 years?
Almost 2 years, year and a half. Mm-hmm.
It was, of course, if you're not familiar with the hotel, it's one of the hotels in downtown Disney, and it was closed due to, does anyone know which hurricane knocked it out, or was it a combination of?
It was a combination. It was a 1-2 punch.
And it was closed for renovations, and I think what happened was they all the hotels suffered some varying degrees of damage, and I think this one just decided to take an opportunity to not only repair damage, but also spruce it up, do a kind of a total rehab. Is that correct?
They had some mechanical issues because it was one of the older hotels in the downtown Disney district, and probably just because of the direction it was facing into the wind, and because it was a little bit older hotel, had older sliding glass doors on all of the rooms. The water just penetrated right into the rooms. They had massive water damage. It just came through. Somebody described it as if the windows weren't there at all, or the doors weren't there at all. So one of the things they were intent on doing was putting in much upgraded new sliding doors because these are much more up to current and much more resistant. They also block out a lot more noise from the highway. So that's been a huge improvement in and of itself. And then they did, huge redecorating, completely replaced all carpet, really they took it almost down to the girders inside. So it's pretty close to brand new as far as the interior.
Great. Let's move on to another downtown Disney hotel. It's the Hilton at Walt Disney World. And what separates the Hilton really is that it does participate in extra magic hours. Is that correct?
That's right.
Now, how does the Hilton compare? Is it like a moderate resort? Is it comparing to a Walt Disney World resort? How does it fall?
Well, it doesn't have the theming you would experience in any of the Disney resorts, but in terms of the accommodations and the amenities available on site, it's more equivalent to a deluxe resort. It has, I think, 5 restaurants. Very extensive.
It's like a Benihana, right?
Yeah, it has
Sorry.
a Benihana. Several restaurants that are operated by the
convenience store.
hotel.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
It has like a convenience store or a quick grab-and-go type place.
Right. It has a very nice little gourmet grab-and-go type thing. It has, I think it's Starbucks coffee, if not something similar to Starbucks.
It is Starbucks. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's a good value.
Speaking of the theming which you mentioned, Mary, do most of these hotels, if they have a theme at all, is it usually that like kind of campy tropical thing where, and by theme I mean they put a few palm trees in the lobby? I mean, do any of them really have themes to them?
Actually, the only one I can think of that is on my list that is themed is Nickelodeon Family Suites, which has a blatant theme of Nickelodeon. That's pretty well exercised throughout the property if you've been there since
They
they
get slime
redid
in the lobby.
it. You kind of can't miss the bright green everywhere. So that one's hard to miss. The other ones are very lightly themed, just generally tropical, or they're just attractively decorated, I would say, in general.
The next hotel is the Doubletree Guest Suites at Downtown Disney again. And this is an all-suite hotel, meaning there's no traditional rooms. Is that right?
That's right. I actually have quite a few all-suite hotels on my list, and the reason is that Disney, until very recently, has not been terribly receptive to family sizes over 4. All of its standard, the lower, the moderate and value resorts really only sleep 4, except for the one exception being Port Orleans, having some rooms that sleep 5 in a trundle, the 5th person being in a trundle bed. So for larger families of 5 or more, there really weren't a lot of options on the Disney property, and I had a lot of people writing saying, I just can't afford to buy 2 rooms at Disney. So I went out looking for suite-style accommodations, many of which will sleep up to 6. And Doubletree Guest Suites sleeps up to 6 people in a room. It's a 2-bedroom setup. It's an older design than the Embassy Suites style suites, where at the Doubletree your bathroom is through the bedroom, so that's maybe the only downside. On the upside, they give my readers free continental breakfast, and it's a very extensive breakfast, so that's a very nice feature. Free food's always good.
Absolutely. And the last resort, we talked about Nickelodeon before, and I think we kind of hit upon that. And with the suites and everything, I think Mary just outlined its benefits as well. The last resort we have to talk about is the Radisson Resort in Orlando, in Celebration, actually.
It's actually across the street from the entrance to Celebration. It's technically in Kissimmee, but it's in kind of an odd little corner of Kissimmee, and it's right on Highway 192 where you can go straight into the parks. So it's very conveniently located.
Great.
But not an area that a lot of people are aware of. It's very convenient if you want to go down to Celebration and see what Celebration's like, and it's very convenient to the parks as well. Offers a lot of value. Their rates are typically quite low considering the quality you're getting a big pool with a water slide and all kinds of sort of nice resorty feeling stuff that you don't normally expect at that price point.
Normally take to get to the parks from there.
Depends on the park, but you could easily be at many of the parks within 10 minutes.
Great.
And just quickly, Mary, do any of these resorts, would you say, require a rental car as opposed to relying on their internal transportation?
They all offer some kind of transportation, but personally, if I were staying at the Radisson Resort Orlando Celebration, I would get a car. I would get a car from Celebration Hotel, and I would get a car from Buena Vista Suites or Caribe Royale. They do offer transportation, as I say, but personally I like the flexibility of being able to go back and forth. And rental cars, unless you're going in some kind of super peak season, if you shop around, you can usually get quite a good deal on a rental car, and it will by no means offset the savings you're going to have by staying in some of these off-site hotels. So in other words, you might be able to save $1,000 on your accommodations if you have to spend $100 or $150 to rent a car and have that flexibility of being able to rent a supermarket or whatever. I think it's well worth it in most cases.
Great. Well, that's it for us today. This has been episode number 76 of Walt Disney World Today. I'd like to thank Mary Waring of MouseSavers.com for being on the show. Thank you, Mary.
Thanks for having me.
And we love having you on here. And if you want to find some older episodes, perhaps one, Mary's been on quite a few episodes already, so you can check some of those or perhaps read some of their show notes or send us your comments. Visit the Walt Disney World Today website at www.wdwtoday.com. You can also email us at questions@wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, Mike Newell, and Mary Waring, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.